Hello, I'm Robert Hooks, and welcome to the Urban Roundtable. My guest is Matthew Earl Jones, who heads up his own production company and is about to launch a very special training program targeting high school students. I might add that Mr. Jones is the brother of actor James Earl Jones and the son of the late actor Robert Earl Jones. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Now, first let's deal with these Earl Joneses, right? Now, I know everybody knows about your successful brother, James, actor of stage, film, and television, great voiceover for Darth Vader and Star Wars and CNN. Where have you been hiding?
I've been hiding behind the camera. I produced commercials in LA for 10 years and started off as a set PA, sweeping the stages and getting people coffee, and if there was a dirty job that someone needed to do, that usually fell to me. And now, about ready to do my first feature.
I want to talk to you about the Earl Jones Institute, this wonderful company, organization that you've started. First of all, talk a little bit about the genesis of the Institute.
Well, actually, Dad started it back in 1983. It was originally the Harlem Folklore Theater. And as you know, Dad got his start working in small plays and little theater companies in New York, and saw a need for people of color to get a shot at really developing their craft. So back in '83, started this nonprofit to help people put on plays in community centers and churches and places like that in New York. And in 2004, it fell to me as Dad was retiring, and I said I'd be happy to take it over, but wanted to change the focus from acting, which I don't do, and in front of the camera, which I don't have those skills, to behind the camera, and to give young people, especially young people of color, exposure to all these amazing jobs that are behind the camera. I think we've done very well. People like yourself have done very well in front of the camera, and I think most young people know about the great actors, the famous actors out there. But for every person in front of the camera, there's a good 20, 30, 40 people that are working every day, making a good living. And here we are in the entertainment capital of the world, so I figured it was time to bring it here to LA.
Now, are you in LA now? Are you located here in LA with
Personally live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm raising a family there, but I'm bringing the Institute here. In fact, we brought it here yesterday. On the 1-year anniversary of my father's passing, we brought our grip truck to Washington Prep High School, and there was about 400 students who got to walk through a professional grip truck, and they've got a wonderful program over there with Daryl McCain, who is a Master of Fine Arts from Columbia. And he could be teaching anywhere, and he's in the war zone trying to get these kids to go into film and tell their stories as opposed to other things that plague our society. So we brought a grip truck there and let the kids walk through it and try to let them know some of the jobs behind the camera and the kind of money you can make.
Tell us a little bit about the different components of the Institute and in the training sense.
Well, we own a grip truck, a fully stocked 3-ton grip truck, and we own a high-definition editing bay. So we have a program called Real Dreams Film Production Boot Camp. And it's a 2-day, hands-on, intensive, like the stuff I did. The truck rolls up and you got to unload the gear and you got to set up C-stands and carry sandbags and set flags, and it gives these kids who are so creative an opportunity to see what works. And then we have a program called the Real Dreams Film Competition, where the kids create stories, and then we professionally produce them as short films for them. So we provide them with state-of-the-art equipment and mentors who are production people to come in, gaffers, key grips, to actually help them get these projects made.
Now, this truck, you're able to really, out of this wonderful facility on wheels, it's basically a studio on wheels.
It's a fully professional. You can produce a movie with it. You're not going to be doing a $100 million feature, but music video, commercial, television show, independent film, documentary. It's got the full lighting package, grip package, everything you need to do a project.
What about the participants? How do these young people sign up, if you will, or are they recruited?
We are working with local organizations here in the city. We tapped Community Build, which, if I can give them a plug, my cousin was a co-founder, Brenda Shockley, along with Maxine Waters.
The wonderful attorney, Brenda Shockley.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's my cousin. So,
A dear friend of mine. I'm sorry.
So we went to her. I said, I want to bring this. We'd had it in Arizona for 3 years, where we kind of, you know, if you're going to bring something to Broadway, you're going to tune it up out of town. Figure out what works, what doesn't, get the bugs out of it. So now we're ready to bring it to LA. And I asked her, you know, if I want to reach the community. They've been doing that for 15 years. Mm-hmm. So rather than reinvent the wheel, I said, who would you suggest we work with? And they hooked us up with Washington Prep. And now we're looking to expand to other cities in the metro LA area.
Now talk about your online stuff. You have an online website.
There's a website.
Talk a little bit about that and how people can get to it and what's on that database.
They can go to earljonesinstitute.com, and there's information on the different programs we offer. There's all the contact information. There'll be a schedule. And as we get more and more people into the program, we want it to be like a database where if you're looking for somebody, or if you have an idea and you want to find people of color for your crew, you can post your project and people can communicate with each other and network through the website.
Now, of course, financing is always a problem for small films or large films or whatever. Are you hooked up to assist in fundraising for films?
We have what we call a virtual film fund. We have specific film assets. We have the grip truck, and we have a full post-production facility. So we don't write a check for someone to go out and rent somebody else's truck, but what we do is we make our assets available to young filmmakers of color at a 100% deferred basis. Mm. So it's basically an interest-free, unsecured loan to independent filmmakers.
And that's paid back when?
When they sell their movie, they pay back their cash investors first, and then they pay us the rent, the accounts receivable, the rental on the editing bay, the rental on the truck, and then we're out. We do not take a percentage of profit. We don't influence the creative of their movie. So it allows them to have the first money in, and then we take a second position coming out.
Now, you said you were going to be moving down from Arizona. Are you going to locate yourself on a major studio lot, or how are you going to deal with the facilities?
I mean, that's an option, but if we're really going to serve the community, I think we have to be in the community. So the grip truck is here. We're looking for a space where, you know, we can put the editing bay, because, you know, a lot of these kids can't get to Universal. They can't get up to Warner Brothers. You know, they don't have the transportation. So if we really want to reach these kids, we have to be where they are.
Right. And even if they could get to the studio, they may have trouble getting through the gates.
They stop me walking on the gate.
Always a problem.
Right. Well, you know, they have assets there that they want to protect. I mean, but I really think the issue, to be positive, is if you're going to serve the community, you need to be in the community. Mm-hmm. I think it gives you more credibility, and then your assets are accessible to the people you're trying to reach.
Well, I think it's a great thing that you're doing, and I know it's difficult to do. I mean, to build a company like that, to create opportunities for all of these young, talented young men and women out in the community. So my hat's off to you. I want to go back for a minute and talk a little bit about your dad. Rest his beautiful soul. I knew him well, as I do your brother. Your father was an extraordinary actor, but he was also a very interesting. He cared about the community. He cared about the kids in the community. Talk a little bit about Robert Earl.
Well, he always, you know, the entertainment industry saved him. You know, he was up in Harlem and he was teaching phys ed, and he was discovered by Langston Hughes, and the lead actor for Don't You Want to Be Free got a paying job downtown, and Dad stepped in, and the rest is history. Right. But he never lost sight of where he started and who helped him, and always wanted to give back. And, you know, used to speak about better parts for people of color and non-stereotypical roles. Right. He, you know, did movies for Oscar Micheaux and remembered the segregated cinema. And he used to say, you know, back then there were black producers, there were black directors, equipment was owned by African Americans. You know, we had the control of production, and we worked. And the reflection of how we were depicted was accurate. And these kids today have amazing stories and not that many opportunities to break in.
Well, I remember talking to your dad on a set of the last time I worked with him on a film, the title of which escapes me, but he and I worked on it together with a lot of other wonderful black actors. And he and I would have these discussions about, look at the crew. I mean, look at the crew, just look at the crew. Now, where are the black crew people on this big film, you know? And that it was always in the front of his mind, creating opportunities and leveling the playing field for African-American artists in this business. Talk a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I got into the business in '93. I had been a corporate executive. I was an ad exec in New York and just really didn't want to do that anymore. But, you know, it gave me an idea of marketing, and so I don't regret those years. But I started off sweeping sound stages and emptying the trash and doing all that, and I actually got a break on a Japanese commercial. I started off as a PA and ended up as the producer. People kept getting fired or quitting, or, you know, there's a lot of promotions.
You kept going up the ladder.
Yeah, I was the last man standing. So, you know, like they say, there's a lot of promotions in war. So we ended up, they said, we're going into the Valley of Fire with Leonardo DiCaprio and 65-man crew, and you're in charge. And I was like, okay. And I had worked with that crew the job before as a PA. Right. And they were actually very supportive of me, you know, stepping up. So I spent 5 years working for the Japanese and segued back into the American market and was a line producer here in Los Angeles in commercials.
Wow, so you've been around the block, starting in New York as an ad person.
Starting in New York as an ad person.
That's amazing.
Came to LA in '86 and was trying to be a musician and was an actor for a year and a half and just realized that might as well let the ones in the family who knew what they were doing. Don't want to bring the family name down. You know, there's two great actors in the family.
Two of the greatest actors, two of the greatest. One's still with us, one unfortunately is gone, but he had a wonderful life. He was 100 years old?
He was actually 102. I found the family Bible where his mother wrote his birthday. He was born February 3rd, 1904.
My. What a life.
Think of all the things he saw.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you mention Oscar Micheaux, most people don't know who Oscar Micheaux is, but one of the early pioneers in producing films out of the trunk of his car, for crying out loud. There's stories about Oscar Micheaux, and Robert Earl, your dad, worked with him.
He worked in the notorious Eleanor Lee.
I remember the film.
Lying Lips, both in 1939, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, I remember the films. I think I might even have them. I have a collection of Oscar Micheaux. But so now you say you called yourself an actor for a year and a half. Did you ever do any acting?
You know, I've got a resume about that big, but you know.
I'm sorry, you said
about that big. You know, I didn't have that burning desire, and I think you need to find what inspires you. And I really love being behind the camera. And, you know, I just realized, you know, there were opportunities that were presented to me because of who my family was, and I figured those should go to people who really wanted those opportunities. You know, if you don't want to be an actor, especially if you come from an acting family, then you really, you know, why even waste everybody's time? Yeah. You know, I'm very happy as a producer, and it's working out. It's what I love doing.
Yeah, it never bothered you that your brother, forget the fact that your father was a great actor, that your brother was an actor working all the time in the movies, and there was James Earl Jones, and where was Matthew Earl Jones? Never.
No, years ago I was a PA on a Bell Atlantic account before it was Verizon, and he was the star, and I was sweeping the parking lot at 7 in the morning. So, you know, but you know, he paid his dues. Dad paid his dues. I think if you want to be good at something, you need to start at the bottom and work your way up. Right. So I wanted to be a producer, came to LA, kind of looked around the business, said that's what I want to do, and really wanted to learn the craft of filmmaking. And you only learn that by humping the gear and getting yelled at. you know.
Just don't drop any cameras.
I stayed away from camera. I was big on grip and electric. If I knocked over a C-stand, nobody really screamed.
Now, you know that how difficult it is in this industry, and it has been in this industry, for African Americans and other minorities, especially behind the camera. What kind of experiences have you had in that area?
Well, in the 3 years that we did the program in Arizona, we worked with the head of IA, because I figured if we were going to train people, you know, you don't want to step on the union's toes. Right. You know, if you're going to acquaint people with these jobs that eventually are union jobs, it's much better to get their blessing than to have them knock on your door.
Oh, for sure.
So we partnered in Arizona with the head of IA, with the business manager for IA. And that worked because Arizona has such a need for crew people. But even there, we found some of the experienced crew people thought we were creating competition to their jobs. It was a very protective, these are our jobs, these are our guys. And what I hope here is that in Los Angeles, because we are not training people in their 20s and 30s, it will not be perceived of as a threat. You know, our goal is to show young people that there's an alternative, that it's not flipping burgers at McDonald's or something that leads you down a bad path. But there's something in the middle where you can work, you can make a good living, you can have fun, you can be around creative people, and hopefully, because we're working with people so young, the unions will not perceive them as an immediate threat and will embrace the project, and hopefully, as there is a growing base of people of color who know these skills, it's my hope that the union will start to open the doors and invite these people, and there will be diversity in the film industry. You know, I would like to think that things are changing. My immediate experience has shown that we still have a very long way to go.
It's still an uphill struggle. There's still that wall that casts shadows on young and not so young African American artists in front of and behind the camera. That's unfortunate.
That's been my experience, you know, and I think that's reflective of where we live. You know, I think that's in all aspects of our society. I think there's been progress. There's still a long way to go, and certainly I'm hoping that we will be well received. But it was definitely decided to work with these young people, one, because it was Dad's vision. You know, you got to start with people young. And so that was, you know, Dad said, you know, get them while they're young. Right. But my experience with the union is that if you're training somebody 25 to 30, there's a perceived threat to their job security. So hopefully we will be welcomed, and years from now, when you're on the set, we'll see some people who look like us.
Right on, a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Yeah. Well, listen, I wish you all the luck in the world with the Earl Jones Institute, which I think is just wonderful because it says James, it says Matthew, and it says Robert, and any of the Joneses that comes after that. You're a family man.
I am. I have a little baby girl.
A baby girl. Oh, wow. Well, there's no Earl Jones there.
No. But and she's pretty theatrical already, so I think there's a little bit of Robert Earl in her already.
Well, listen, now, as it relates to where you're going to locate the Institute, of course, Inglewood's a perfect place. We, here in Inglewood, have been planning for a performing arts center here in Inglewood. What are your thoughts on perhaps some kind of a collaboration with what we want to do here in Inglewood with the Performing Arts Center and what the Earl Jones Institute's all about?
I think it would be a perfect match. I think a Performing Arts Center here would be a wonderful benefit to the community. It would get, not only could you bring in outside productions, but it could possibly allow local people to have a showcase vehicle. And certainly, if local people are trained, what a wonderful thing if these people, local people, could get a training and then could work at that Performing Arts Center in crew positions.
No, I think that what your institute has to offer and what we're talking about here in Inglewood with the Performing Arts Center could be something very special. You haven't found a place yet.
No, and we're definitely looking to relocate, and Inglewood would be perfect. I have a friend who I've known for many years who works for the city and in a high capacity. I don't know if I can mention his name, but we'll.
I probably know who you're talking about anyway. Ed Maddox. He's going to be sitting in that chair in a little bit.
We can mention him. So Ed and I go back to when I was producing Freedom Card spots for him with Queen Latifah.
Ah, okay.
So Ed and I go way back, and considering we're both, very young men.
Of course you are.
So way back is all relative. But I think this would be a perfect place to locate.
Right.
It's a vibrant, it's growing. You guys there's a lot going on here. There's a lot here already, and there's a lot more that will be coming here.
Well, we have been proposing this and planning this for going on 5 years now, maybe 4.5 years. We're serious about it. The people in Inglewood are serious about having a performing arts center here in Inglewood. And with all of the development that's going to be going on in Inglewood, down around Prairie and the Hollywood Park and the Forum, which is where we're looking at to house the Performing Arts Center. So we want to welcome you to Inglewood, because what you're doing is really very, very special, Matthew. Very special.
I think it could really thrive here. I think this is the perfect place for what we are trying to do, and that I think that in a small way what we are trying to do for the community fits in with what the community wants to do here in Inglewood.
Well, I want to wish you all the luck in the world with your company. And of course, I know the students, the kids, the people that really and truly are looking desperately for training that won't cost an arm and a leg.
It's actually free of charge.
It's free of charge.
It's free of charge.
It's wonderful to have a tuition-free training program, and behind the camera, not in front of the camera. Thank you so much for coming on the Roundtable. You'll come back because I know you're going to be doing some wonderful things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Great to spend time with you.
You bet.